Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Hope so everyone is fine and good. Welcome again with one more video lecture. Okay. In the previous lecture I have discussed about the sexual reproduction in plants and about the structure of the flower. Dear students, today I will discuss about pollination, and first I will again explain the structure of the flower or the different parts of the flower. Okay, parts of a flower. The main parts of flower are receptacle, sepals, petals, stamen and carpel. Okay, these are the main parts. Among these parts, the reproductive parts of the plant are parts of the flower are stamen and carpel. Carpel is also known as pistil. Okay, each and every part of the plant plays an important role. Okay, each and every part of the plant plays an important role. Receptacle, the base of the flower to which all the parts of flower are attached is called receptacle. As you can see in the picture, the base of the flower. Receptacle, it is the base of a flower to which all the parts of a flower are attached. You can see here, it is the base of the flower to which all the parts of the flower are. Okay, the base of the flower to which all the parts of a flower are attached. This is called receptacle. This is called receptacle. Second, sepals. These sepals are green-like parts in the outermost circle of a flower. Okay, these sepals are green-like. As you can see here, these sepals are green-like parts, structures, green leaf-like structures, and in the outer circle of the flower, and they are called sepals. When the group of sepals are present, we can see all the sepals taken together, those are known as calyx. Okay, students, you have to remember there one leaf-like structure which is green in color is known as sepal. When a group of sepals are present, they are known as calyx. See, they are known as calyx. Okay, what are the functions of those sepals? Those special functions of those sepals is to protect the flower in the bud stage. The function of sepals is to protect the flower in its initial stage when it is in the form of bud. When it is in the form of bud, these are the functions. These are the functions. That is the function of the sepal. Second, that is petals. The colorful parts of the flower is called petals. These, the colorful parts of the flower, they are known as petals. They are known as petals. These colorful parts of the flower, they are known as petals. The petals lies inside the sepals. Those petals lie inside the sepals. The sepals are on the outside, and inside the sepals are the petals. Inside the sepals are the petals. One colored leaf-like structure is known as petal. When the group of petals are taken together, they are known as corolla. They are known as corolla. What are they known as? They are known as corolla. Group of sepals are known as calyx. Group of petals are known as corolla. What the petals are usually scented. They are usually scented. The function of the petals, the functions of the corolla is to attract the insects. They have to attract the insects. Why those petals are colorful? Why they are colored? They are colored because they have to attract the insects and to protect they have to attract the insects for pollination and to protect the reproductive organs which are at the center of the flower. They have two functions. First, they are colorful. They are colored because they have to attract the insects. Those insects become pollinating agents, and they have also to protect the reproductive organs which are at the center of the flower. Okay, these are the two non-reproductive parts of the flower: sepals and petals. Group of sepals are known as calyx, and group of petals are known as corolla. Now, two reproductive parts. First, that is stamen. Second, that is carpel, or we can say pistil. Stamen have the little stalk with a swollen top just inside the ring of petals in a flower are called stamens. Those stamens are the male reproductive organs of a plant. Those stamens are the male reproductive organs of the plant, having anther containing pollen grains. They have anther, they contain pollen grains. Those grains have male gametes in them. Those grains have male gametes in them. Those pollen grains have male gametes. Those pollen grains have male gametes in them, as you can see in the structure here. Stamen, those have two parts, anthers and the filaments. Anthers and the filaments. The stamen that is made up of two parts, a filament and an anther. The stalk or of a stamen is called a filament. This stalk of stamen, that is, if I draw a structure of stamen here, this stalk is known as filament, and this lobe-like structure is known as anthers. Okay, and the swollen top of the stem, that is known as anther. Anther make the pollen grains and stores them. Okay, the pollen grains appear to be yellowish or powdery like substances. Okay, pollen grains contain the male gametes, or we can say male sex, okay, of the plants. Each pollen grain contains two male gametes. Okay, these are about the male reproductive part of the flower. Now, female reproductive part of the flower, carpel or pistil. In the center of the flower, you can see in the structure here, in the figure here, in the center of the flower, in the center of a flower, there is a flask shaped structure. This flask shaped structure, okay, this flask shaped structure, this flask shaped structure, okay, this flask shaped structure, that is known as carpel, or we can say pistil. Carpel or pistil is the female reproductive organ of the plant. A carpel is made up of three parts: stigma, style, and ovary. In the ovary there are ovules also. This is made up of three parts: stigma, the topmost part; in the middle there is a style, and at the bottom is the ovary. In the middle of the ovary are ovules present. Okay, in the middle of the ovary are ovules. A carpel is made up of three parts: stigma, style, and ovary. Stigma, style, and ovary. In the middle of the ovary are present ovules. Okay, stigma is for receiving the, what is the function of the stigma? That is for the receiving of the pollen grains. When the pollen grains come from the anther to the stigma, this stigma to the female gamete part, the function of this topmost part is to receive the pollen grains, pollen grains from the anthers. Okay, the middle part of the carpel is called style. This style is a tube-like structure. The middle part, that is known as style. This style is a tube-like structure. Okay, this style connects this stigma with the ovary. It forms the tube-like structures, and the pollen grains that come from the anthers to the stigma, they travel through these tube-like structures and come in contact with the ovules. Those ovules which are present inside the ovary. Okay, now you got that there are four different parts. Four different main parts: sepals, petals, non-reproductive part, stamen, and carpel. That is known as those are the reproductive parts of the flower. Okay, stamens are also known as androecium. Carpel is also known as pistil, and we can say also gynoecium. Okay. Now, pollination. What is pollination? Dear students, for the formation of a seeds, generally in flowering plants, there is a formation of the seed. A new seed of a plant is formed when the male gamete present in the pollen grain unites with the, or fuses with the, fusion takes place with the female gamete present in the ovule. This happens, this formation of seed, for that the formation of the seed two processes happens. That is, first is pollination, second is fertilization. If pollination does not take place, formation of seed does not take place. If fertilization does not take place, formation of seed does not take place. So for the formation of the seeds in the flowering plants, two processes happens. First, that is pollination, second, that is fertilization. What is pollination? Okay, what is pollination? The process of transfer of pollen grain to the stigma of pistil is called pollination. The process of transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of a flower is known as pollination. In the first setup, in the process of seed formation, this pollination is the first setup in the process of seed formation. Okay, the process of transfer of pollen grains from anther to the stigma of the, or we can say to the female reproductive part, that is called pollination. Now question arises here, how does pollination takes place? The process of pollination occurs in two different ways. Okay, self-pollination and cross-pollination. When pollen grains are transferred from anther to stigma of the same flower, okay, that is known as self-pollination. When pollen grains are transferred from anther of one flower to the stigma of another flower of same kind, but different plant, that is known as cross-pollination. Dear students, you have to remember here that there are two possibilities of self-pollination. First, suppose this is a flower of a plant. What is pollination? Transfer of anther, or transfer of the process of transfer of pollen grain. We can see the process of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of the flower. When transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma of the flower occurs only one in this flower. Transfer of pollen grain to the stigma of this flower, that is known as self-pollination. This is also known as self-pollination when transfer of pollen grain from one flower of this plant to the stigma of the flower to the other flower of this plant. मीन्स जब ट्रांसफर होगा किसका, पोलन ग्रेन का, इस फ्लावर से इस फ्लावर तक, लेकिन ये दोनों फ्लावर एक ही प्लांट में है, इसको भी हम सेल्फ पोलिनेशन कहेंगे. ये भी सेल्फ पोलिनेशन है और ये भी सेल्फ पोलिनेशन है. व्हाट? व्हेन द पोलन ग्रेन्स फ्रॉम द एंथर ऑफ ए फ्लावर suppose from the anther of a flower are transferred to the stigma of the same flower, or another flower of the same plant, suppose plant is same and flowers are different. This is also known as self-pollination. Flower is same, and in only this flower transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma takes place. In same plant here, but here are different flowers. Here is only one flower. This is also known as self-pollination. What is self-pollination? In this kind of pollination, the pollen grains are transferred from the anther of one plant to the stigma of the same plant. Here, same plant, you have to remember. Same plant means in same plant there are different flowers. When the pollen grains from the anther of a flower are transferred to the stigma of the same flower, or another flower of the same plant. Here you have to remember another flower of the same plant. It is called self-pollination. Okay, now what is cross-pollination? In this kind of pollination, the pollen grains from one flower are transferred to the stigma of another flower. Pollen grains, they transfer from one flower to the stigma of the inner flower. But in cross pollination the plants are different. You have to remember that in cross pollination the plant is different. In self pollination the plant is same, only one plant. Maybe flowers are different but plant is only one. In cross pollination the plants are two and the flowers are also different. Suppose transfer of pollen grain from anther to the stigma from this plant to this plant, from anther of this plant to the stigma of this plant, from male reproductive part of this plant to the male reproductive part of this plant. Okay, this is known as cross pollination. When the pollen grains from the anther of a flower on one plant are transferred to the stigma, from the anther of a plant from one plant, from one flower of one plant to the stigma of a flower, of on another plant. It is called cross pollination. Okay, your plant in self pollination the plant is same. This is also self pollination, transfer of pollen grain from anther to stigma. In this plant, transfer of anther to stigma. Flowers are different, but plant is same. But in cross pollination, the plants are different. Okay, pollination cannot take place its own. Here, now pollen grains are transferred from anther to stigma, whether in same plant, whether in different plant, whether in one plant to another, from one flower of one plant to another flower of the same plant. But there are agents by which this pollen grain transferred from anther to the stigma. So we can say that pollination cannot take place on its own. It needs some agents to help in the process. Okay, these are external agents like wind, water and insects. They all are called agents of pollination, or we can say pollinating agents. In the next lecture we will discuss about the pollinating agents.